You are seen as a humble, straightforward, and professional person known for clear and concise communication. Despite your reserved demeanor, your distinguished military career spanning decades has earned you numerous awards and recognitions. What are your ideals, role models, and the moral values that you cherish the most?
You know, I will say that any person, not just me, you, everyone, is a combination of all the experiences that he has had in life. And those could be good experiences, those could be bad experiences. Similarly, you will meet a lot of people in life. There will be good people, sort of role models, not just one, and there will be not so good people. So it's not that all my bosses were excellent and that all my superiors went on to become generals. So, what is important is to be able to learn from each experience and to learn from each person that you have met and imbibe all those good qualities and those bad qualities or bad experiences, not to repeat that, but not to forget it either. If you forget, then you might make the same mistake. So it still has to be kept in the back of the mind. And I alluded to this earlier also, that keep it at the back of the mind that you don't make those mistakes. But it is should be a continuous learning process as you go through life. And it does not stop with retirement. I learn new things even now. So that is the thing. So learn, imbibe the good, discard the bad.
Right. So, continuous learning is the key. Since sometime you are writing articles in the print about current affairs and current issues with the defense forces, how do you find this new field? Is it a good avenue for your creative expression?
Yes, it is a good avenue, no doubt. It also keeps me invested in what is going on in the field of international relations and military strategy. Because every week I touch upon a different topic. Uh, and of course, before you can write, you have to do fair amount of research. So if you have to write 1,000 word article, you have to research for 3 4 days and get your thoughts together. So it's yes, it's a good outlet, but more than that, it is. I think it's more important in the sense that it is uh, keeping me engaged and active.
Right. Do you have any plans to serve the country further through politics?
No, we are always serving the country, even after retirement. It is you have retired from army. You have not retired from life. Yeah? So as long as an ex-serviceman, we will continue to do best for what is good for the country. And the writings which I am doing for print, again, is always with a India viewpoint and what more needs to be done, or is what we are doing correct or not correct. So, for example, on politicization of the army, when Air Chief Marshal Bhadoria joined the BJP, there was again this thing about politicization of army. So based on that, I wrote an article that a political army does not mean that you cannot have political views. A political army doesn't mean I don't vote. I'm still entitled to vote. That doesn't mean you can take away that fundamental right of mine. So my articles are of that type. And I think that by disseminating this kind of information, I'm in fact, in a way, continuing to serve the country by putting across very balanced views on aspects which seem, or aspects which are being made to seem divisive or controversial, like even this aspect of hot pursuit. The Honorable Raksha Mantri again in an interview mentioned कि घुस के मारेंगे.
Yes.
which again became controversial. So based on that, again I wrote this article on hot pursuit. That hot pursuit is accepted in international law. It does not mean you go and assassinate somebody in US. That is not hot pursuit. But if somebody comes and hits you, you're entitled to hit him back immediately. It has to be, those aspects which I mentioned earlier about, proportionate, immediate, and these 3, 4 things. It is allowed. So I wrote an article on that. So I'm disseminating in the information and justifying India's position and stand on various issues. So I think in that manner, I'm still serving the larger community and interests of the country.
Yes, definitely. Uh, just last couple of questions. You, excuse me, you completed your PhD recently, I think last year, and you have also studied psychology of terrorism. So, what do you think? I mean, your findings, can they be used in which way?
So my thesis was, I was posted in Nagaland for 2 years. So I saw again during that tenure, I visited each and every district of Nagaland, saw the developmental aspects which are there. Nagaland has had, in fact, the longest running insurgency is of Nagaland, although they are now in ceasefire with the government. So, so the causes of that and various aspects. So that was the seed behind doing my doctoral research, which is harmonizing Naga customs, traditions, and institutions in the context of peace and development. So the bottom line is, that roti kapda makan. If you have that, then why will somebody become a terrorist? Or why will somebody become a criminal? But to have that, then you have to have the infrastructure and the rules, regulations in place. So, some of the aspects about Naga customs and traditions are sometimes an impediment to development. And because that development is not taking place, therefore, there are a lot of unemployed youth, and therefore, the unemployed youth are lured by these anti national elements, and then they join these terrorist organizations. So, there is a dynamic, up and down relation. So, if the development is to take place, then certain rules and regulations of which are very tribal in nature will also have to change. And if those changes are not done, then development will not take place. If development doesn't take place, then insurgency will remain. So at the bottom line, wherever there is strife, it is again from an economic plane. And I mentioned economy earlier also number of times. So if the economic base is strong, if everyone, those basic needs are met, then there will be no strife. It might sound, very utopian, but that is the fact.
Right. And I think you've been consulting the private sector post your retirement in some ways. So, what do you think? I mean, one or two lessons you would like to share based on your experiences for the corporate sector. I mean, what the corporate sector should imbibe from the defense forces.
This from the management point of view or work
Ye-
culture point of view or
yes, work culture and leadership management point of view.
mm, see, I don't think there is much difference in the management part, whether it comes to the army or the. When I say army, means armed forces and
Yes.
CV Street. Those basic qualities are the same. If somebody is successful in civil industry, whether the Tatas or if somebody is a CEO in Infosys or somewhere, those qualities are the same. That you have to be hands-on, you have to be able to take decisions. So that I think always remains the same. I think what is more important is that you should be able to deliver on your promises. I find that in many instances you promise something and then you're not able to meet that target. And then that leads to a sense of disillusionment. So, as one of my seniors used to say, it's not my own quote, that you should under promise and over deliver rather than the other way around. So, say that I will give it to you in 50 months, 60 months, 5 years, then give it in 4.5. He'll be very happy with you. But if you say I give it in 4 years and give it in 4.5 years, he'll be unhappy. The time you have delivered it is still the same, 4.5 years. But in that case, you have promised too much and not been able to meet those expectations. So once you say that you're going to do something, you should be able to meet that target. And sometimes we falter in that.
So we can say don't overpromise and don't underdeliver. So the last question, we'll take it in the national language. जनरल साहब, आप देशवासियों को जिंदगी के बारे में क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
पहली बात तो यह है कि युवकों के लिए कि जो भी आप काम करते हैं वो पूरा दिल लगा के करना चाहिए, और उसका क्या नतीजा होगा, उसके क्या फ़ायदे होंगे, उसको मद्देनज़र ना रखते हुए जो आपको उसका रिवॉर्ड मिलना है, उसका फ़ायदा मिलना है, वो अगर आना है तो वो आएगा, लेकिन दिल लगा के काम करो और ऊपर वाला है देखने के लिए। हाँ, आखिर में हम सभी इसी में विश्वास करते हैं कि किस्मत, अगर किस्मत में लिखा है, भाग्य में लिखा है तो होगा, अगर नहीं लिखा तो नहीं होगा। तो उसका फिक्र ना करते हुए उसको अपना काम ठीक तरीके से करो। अब बात आती है कि कौन सा काम, तो उस काम में लगो, वो उस प्रोफेशन में, उस कामकाज में लगो जहाँ आपका दिल लगा हुआ है। इसलिए डॉक्टर मत बनो क्योंकि आपके पिताजी ने बोला कि डॉक्टर बनना है, इसलिए इंजीनियर मत बनो, इसलिए लॉयर मत बनो, और इसलिए फ़ौज में भी मत आओ क्योंकि पेरेंट्स ने बोला कि फ़ौज में जाओ। वहाँ जाओ जहाँ के आपकी दिलचस्पी है, और अगर आपकी वहाँ दिलचस्पी है तो अपने आप वो काम वहाँ पर ठीक करोगे। अगर दिलचस्पी नहीं है तो फिर वो कोई ना कोई बहाना आप ढूंढोगे कि ये काम क्यों ना किया जाए। और मेरे अनुभव में कई ऐसे किस्से हैं जहाँ की एक लड़का, उसने अपनी डॉक्टरी की है और डॉक्टरी करने के बाद अपने पिताजी को जाके उसने वो सर्टिफिकेट दिया है, ये लो आपका डॉक्टरी का सर्टिफिकेट, अभी मैं चला अपना काम करने के लिए, कि मैंने आपकी बात मान ली, लेकिन ये मेरा फिर 5 साल क्यों उसने बर्बाद किए। ना सिर्फ 5 साल बर्बाद किए, लेकिन और किसी की सीट भी बेकार गई जो किसी और को मिल सकती थी। लेकिन आखिर में उसने वो किया जहाँ वो करना चाहता था। तो इसलिए मेरी यही 2 बातें हैं कि दिल लगा के काम करो और वो काम अपनाओ या वो फैसला लो जहाँ आपका दिल लगा हुआ है। और फिर ये दोनों चीज़ का जब तालमेल होगा तो अपने आप आपको बढ़ोतरी भी होगी और सुकून भी मिलेगा।